Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group, this time with our roundtable and our partner, the National Nurses United. Today is Saturday, February 18, 2023. February is Black History and American Heart Month. Our host is Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host, Army National Guard veteran. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have our panelist on the line, Cecilia Sherrod. She is a nurse recruiter, and she's going to talk about how hiring associate degree nurses will help the VA's nursing shortage. So what's going on, Cecilia? How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Thank you for having me once again.
My pleasure.
And this is a great topic. I'm going to tell you why. The VA, vision-wide, is now pushing for the VAs to now hire associate degree nurses. What we've seen...
Well, first, back up a little bit. Tell us the difference, because I don't know anything about the different trainings of different nursing degrees and so on. So what's the difference between an associate... Like, what are the levels of nurses?
Okay.
First off.
So let's start with the levels. You can have an associate degree nurse, which is a one-year nurse. You can go to school for 1 year and have obtain an associate degree. The bachelor's degree nurse is the next one, which is a 2-year degree. Then after your 2 years, you can do another 2 years and get your MSN degree, which is your master's degree. Then there's also another degree after that, which is your DNP, your doctorate or your PhD. So there's actually 4 degrees within nursing. So it's your associate's, your bachelor's, your master's, and your doctorate's degree, or your PhD if you want to do that. You can have accelerated schools, accredited schools, where you can go from your ADN, which is your associate degree, and do like a 3-year and get your master's degree. So they do have accelerated courses or schools where you can skip over that bachelor's degree and obtain your master's degree. And most nurses are actually doing this. So most of the nurses that are coming out are obtaining their master's degree or their bachelor's degree.
And that's 4 years? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
For a master's? Okay. So it's a little bit different than what you normally would do if you did a regular, like, bachelor's. The normal bachelor's would be like 4 years, or so it should be 2 years. It's like half, just if you're going to specialize in nursing.
Correct.
Okay. So tell us more about how hiring associate degree nurses will help the VA nursing shortage, because what are the concerns about it, and why haven't we done this already?
So I don't think there's any concerns about hiring associate degree nurses. I think what it is many associate degree nurses either don't apply, they go straight to the nursing homes and try to get up their skills. But again, I don't think there's any backlash to it. The reason why the VA is now pushing for this, and as a nurse recruiter, they're even pushing us to now bring in more associate degree nurses. So here's why. Within the next 5 to 10 years, we will see a huge retirement of nurses throughout the VA. The average age of our nurses, they're already in their 50s and 60s, believe it or not. They've worked well past, their retirement age, a lot of them, just due to the cost of living, and they may be the only breadwinner in their homes. So they've kept working. But in the next 5 or 10 years, we do see a huge retirement factor coming. So this is why we're now pushing to hire the associate degree nurses within the VA systems. And they're young, they have staying power. They're not coming with any bad habits where, after a nurse has been a nurse 5, 10, 15 years, they've created all these bad habits that you have to kind of dig into and wash away. And they can we can mold them basically to, I don't want to say how we want to mold them, but basically teach them and have them maneuver through the system. If anybody worked through the VA system, they know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words,
learn like the VA system versus learning a civilian system. Just like if
correct.
you're going to be in the military, you learn if you're coming from another world and you've been working several years doing one thing, the military world will seem foreign to you completely. But if you're growing up being trained in that, you're already ready for it. So that's what you know. That's what you do.
Correct.
So now tell me this though. But tell me this. So so is there? We talked about this before when you came on the show about pay. Pay was a big issue because someone could get more money doing something else with their qualifications. So with how does that work with associate degree nurses?
So with associate degree nurses, the VA system, at least where we are, I can't speak to others, we have pushed and we've gotten that 4.6 increase in pay.
Wow.
So, of course, if you're coming in with an associate degree, you're not going to make as much as someone with a bachelor's degree or a master's degree who has 5 or 10 years. But what we also tell, nurses that are coming on board, what I tell them is you got to outweigh the pros and cons. So do you want to make money right now, or do you want to get the experience, get the exposure, get all the benefits that come with being a federal employee? And basically, what we also have is what's called the NNEI Scholarship, the National Nurses Initiative Scholarship. And what this does is it pays that ADN if she wants him or she wants to go back and get their bachelor's degree or their master's degree. Once they're there for 1 year, they will pay for their next degree. So again, I tell them, weigh the pros and cons of, do I want to make money right now and that's all I'm making? Or do I want the other benefits that come with working within the VA system?
So it sounds like there's more long-term benefits from getting that initial training in a VA system.
Correct.
Okay.
So, yes, they can make the money if they stay on the outside right away, but that's all you're getting is the money. Long term, that money will come as you climb up the career ladder, as you go from that nurse 1, that ADN nurse, to now a nurse 2, the BSN nurse, to now the nurse 3, the MSN nurse. And as you move up the career ladder, you do start to make more money.
It seems like just off the bat, if you're going to get 1 year of training for free and get your degree for free just after doing service for 1 year, then I would think, when I was in the military, I was in a medical company. So a lot of the people that were in the unit were paramedics. They were assistant surgeons. They were all kinds of things. Dr. Arnold was in our unit, actually. So when we were getting trained, I was a mechanic. I wasn't on the medical side, but I saw a lot of what the guys were doing. I saw that a lot of people were using the military as leverage to get the training and experience, and then it made it easier for them to get their training because they saw how to do triage, they saw how to do things in their military training, and getting hands-on experience at the same time. Then it helped them excel really in their schooling at home.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny you say that because with Lovell, the facility I work at, we've actually merged with the Navy. And what I can tell you, I've been working with the Navy now for, I'm going to say, almost 10 years, is they really set their individuals, those young men and women, they truly set them up well. They give them the experience and the exposure they need. They give them the resources. And I think this is what we're trying to do now, for these young nurses, is you may not get the money up front, but look at the long-term experience you will get. Look at the long-term benefits you will get in working for a VA system.
So, and this is more purely your personal opinion, I'm asking. But would you say that aside from the money, are the benefits on the federal side better than what you normally see in a typical hospital? And a part of that is I'm asking this because I've noticed it, and I've heard this from a lot of civilian nurses, that there's a lot of turnover in the private sector. Nurses unhappy where they're working, they're going to different hospitals, they're changing places. The average civilian nurse I know has been to at least 2 or 3 hospitals, but the average VA nurse, I don't know they've ever done anything. It seems like that's all they do. They stay with the VA. So let me ask you this: are the benefits better?
Yes, the benefits they're so much better. And I'm going to give you an example because we had a nurse that just retired that had been there for 50 years. So she started as a CNA, went back to school, got her licensed practical nurse, which is an LPN, got a job there as an LPN, went back, got her RN degree, got a job as an RN, went back and got her BSN, then her master's degree, got a job as a nurse manager there, became the associate chief nurse, which she just kept climbing the ladder till she was actually the chief nurse of the facility.
Wow.
And she retired after 50 years.
Wow.
So the health benefits are great, federal health benefits. Again, we're paying for your schooling if you want to go back and get a higher degree, your BSN or your MSN or your DNP. And as you're moving and you're getting these higher degrees, like I said, you are making more money. You can go from a nurse manager to associate chief nurse. There's so many opportunities. And let's just say you move or life happens and your husband, gets another job or wife gets another job. You do not have to leave the VA system. You can literally transfer to another VA in another state. A lot of people can't do that in the outside sector. Once you move to another state, you have to find a whole new job. In the VA system, you can literally transfer to another VA. Then there are the unions, really, that help guide the nurses. People look at unions and they frown on them. But as a union member, we really advocate for the nurses, telling you and coaching you. And we're truly a resource to our nurses, saying these are the options. This is what's out there for you. Because when you come to the VA, just like you said, it's a whole nother world. I'm telling you, my first year, I thought I was in a twilight zone. It was so different from the outside sector.
Well, tell us more about that just for a brief moment. So when you say it was like the twilight zone, so did you look down upon what you saw in the VA, or was it just different?
It's just different because if I was to go from another hospital to another hospital in the outside sector, it's pretty much set up the same. When you go into the VA world, the charting is different. The dynamics are different. When you're dealing with just veterans or their family members, so that's different. The structure is different. And what I mean by the structure, just the language, the lingo was different. When we say work day on the outside, it's a tour of duty when you're in the VA system. I had no idea when they kept saying tour of duty. Like, what are you talking about?
I'm thinking
but that just means your work day. Right. So that's what I mean by it's just so different.
Yes, that's so. Do you see this move to hire more associate degree nurses as a solution to the nursing shortage in the VA?
I do, and this is the reason why. Like I said, within the next 5 or 10 years, our nurses will be retiring out of the VA. We need someone, the younger generation, to pull up the rear. We cannot keep bringing in 40, 50-year-old nurses because, again, they're only going to give us another 10 years, and then they've retired. So if we start bringing in the young nurses in their 20s, early 30s, then, like I said, they have staying power. They can be there for another 20 years.
Now, when you go and recruit nurses, where do you recruit nurses, and how do you go about it?
So when we recruit, we really start at the schools, the colleges, universities, and we start really at the sophomore level, sophomore and juniors. We start talking to them there, and we start giving them these options. This is why you should work for the VA. These are the benefits. These are the pros and cons. So it's mainly in the schools.
I would think that the VA system, because a lot of people might be daunted, because I've seen and heard horror stories of young students going into medical programs where they didn't get the proper training, mainly because they didn't have the financial resources to get the real training. So they went to for-profit schools, were insufficiently trained, and then now they can't get a real job because they don't have the proper training and education. Whereas through the VA system, it sounds like you're going to make sure they get the right education.
Absolutely. So what the VA has also instituted, it's what's called the RNTTP, and this stands for RN Transition to Practice Program. So as the new nurses are coming in, it is mandatory that they go into this program for 1 year. And they are set up with a mentor, they are set up with a preceptor, and they are checked on weekly as to how are things going. So again, when we hire these young men and women in, we're not just going to let them loose in the facility. We will lose them quickly. They have to. They must. They are mandated to go into the RN transition to practice program.
So what are some of the ways that people can get financial assistance to get their initial training?
Initial training for?
To become a nurse, just to get an associate's degree. So because that's one of the things that a lot of people that try to get training for, they can't get the financial resources together to get a degree.
Right. So in the VA system, let's just say I'm a CNA or a healthcare tech or pharmacist. What we have is called, it's EISP. And what this is it's a program. It's called the Employee Incentive Scholarship Program, EISP. So let's just say I'm a CNA or a healthcare tech, and I want to go back for nursing. So I apply for this program. I'm accepted. And this program is actually, it helps the employee go back to school or training to pursue a higher degree. So if you want to get your ADN or your BSN.
What about this, the initial training? I'm just talking about like someone who's a high school student who graduates. They know that nurses make a lot of money. They think they're qualified to do it. They have the acumen as far as the mental and emotional requirements to do it. It's something that they care about or passionate about. Where do they start to get the resources to go to school to get an associate's degree?
So what I would tell them is to basically reach out to a school, whatever school, first pick an accredited school. So this has been a huge issue too. Mm-hmm. We have found out some of these nurses who are going to school have not went to accredited school, and now they are having issues with their license being in jeopardy. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I would say is have these young men and women find an accredited school that they want to go to. From there, they can apply for a student loan, and there's multiple student loans that they can apply for. And if not a loan, they can also apply for what's called a Pell Grant. Pell Grant will pay the school for you. So first, find an accredited school. Then apply for a loan or a grant.
Wow, so that gives you kind of the blueprint right there. So if they go to an accredited school, separate those guys out first, like we mentioned before. Because there was a huge problem. Just a few years back, we talked about it on this show. Did a report on the fact that a lot of for-profit schools are losing VA funding or losing GI Bill funding because of the fact that they weren't meeting the basic requirements to help people get jobs. Kids were going into $30,000, $40,000 in debt and coming out, not even barely trained to do anything, even in a nursing home, because they had no clue that they were what they were learning, but they were not qualified.
Exactly.
So you can get a Pell Grant, get on financial aid at an accredited school.
Correct.
And they can reach out to National Nurses United, I'm assuming, to get maybe some guidance on to what those schools are or where those schools are.
Absolutely. And I can even say, if they are interested, even joining or applying for a VA, they can also reach out to the nurse recruiter within their area, the VA in their area, and that nurse recruiter will also help guide them through the process.
That's the blueprint. I mean, reach out to a school. I mean, what type of money are we talking about for this a VA associate degree nurse? Starting salary, what are we talking about?
Right. It depends on the school. Colleges, you can probably get an ADN for maybe $10,000, $12,000. If you go to a university, universities are much more. It can cost maybe $15,000 to $20,000. So it really depends on the school.
But how much money can they make once they get their degree? Say they go into the VA and now they're hired as a nurse, as a nurse working in the VA. They're in that transition program that you mentioned before, the 1-year program. How much money are they going to make in a year?
So in a year, you can come out making about $90,000.
What?
80? Yeah.
90,000?
80 to 90,000. Yes.
Starting out.
Again, remember I just told you. Yeah.
So you've been to school for 1 year.
Again, I can only quote in my area, the area of Wisconsin and Illinois. Yeah, you can come out making 80 to 90,000. Yes, easily.
Why isn't like every person who is lost and dazed and confused, wandering around the halls of a high school, not thinking about doing exactly what we just gave you the blueprint for success.
Mm-hmm.
We just laid it out.
Mm-hmm. You know why? Because no one is there teaching them that. They don't have that exposure. No one is saying, this is an area. There is a need. This is how much money you can make. And it's not about the money. You have to love the job.
Or something like that.
Right.
You got people that have been in college for 8 years and they're making $40,000, $50,000 a year.
Oh, no. Our nurses right now, if I tell you, oh, my God, our nurses are making, the highest nurse is making about $180.
Wow, that is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy money.
That's doctor's money, is it not?
That's Wall
That's
Street
physician's money.
Man.
So, yes. And go ahead.
No. It's just a comment. That's just phenomenal. So, we got about 30 seconds left to kind of give us the one thing you want us to know about this initiative to get the associate degree nurses in the VA system.
The one thing I do want to stress, if there are associate degree nurses out there and wanting to get into the VA system, please reach out to your local VA and speak with the nurse recruiter. That will be your best bet. Like I said, they can navigate you through the process of how to get into the VA, how to get into different programs, and how to maneuver through the system. So reach out to your local nurse recruiter.
Cecilia Sherrod, it was a pleasure to have you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.